Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. So Rakarth's announcement really took the Total War Warhammer community by surprise, admittedly myself included, as I was very much expecting for a Dark Elf vs Beastmen DLC. With many people expecting for Rakarth the Beast Lord versus Taurox the Brass Bull. However, of course, now we know that Rakarth is the FLC, and I've spent the last few days trying to think of the future, where recently a member of my Discord server popped out a name, and it's stuck in my head ever since. The Beauty and the Brass. Cue the obvious Beauty and the Beast reference. So who exactly are the Beauty and the Brass? Well, for the Beauty, it would be the Vampire Queen Neferata, and for the Brass, it's none other than Taurox the Brass Bull. Both of them are very much requested characters, and the Warhammer 2 map could be the perfect way to introduce them. Let's take the time now to talk about each of the lords separately. First, Neferata, the Vampire Queen of Lemire, a character which is very much requested, and both of her iconic locations are now added into the Mortal Empires map. Her base of operations in the Silver Pinnacle, which is in the World's Edge Mountains, and of course her place of birth, Lemire, an area which is much centered around her lore as she wishes to reclaim her throne. It is important to note that the Silver Pinnacle was only recently added to the Mortal Empires campaign map, leading for many to speculate that her arrival into Warhammer 2 may come sooner than expected. Her campaign would obviously center around trying to retake Lemire. Of course, the Silver Pinnacle is not available in the Eye of the Vortex, but she can be placed literally anywhere. There of course would be some hurdles placed into her campaign, where perhaps she would have to dominate other vampires in an effort to secure enough support to be able to take back Lemire. Though there is the biggest hurdle of them all, Taurox the Brass Bull, who seems to be hunting you down for some reason or another. He and his army of Doom Bulls would be a constant thorn in your side, and the only way to actually put an end to him would be to take over Lemire itself, which would then trigger the quest battle where you would face the Brass Bull himself. However, that wouldn't be the end of it, as when you defeat the Brass Bull, the real antagonist will make herself known. Your very own cousin Khalida, who had been tricking the Brass Bull in some way, shape or form to target you. So now, with your forces well spent and damaged, you will now have to face against your cousin, leading to 2 battles within the same quest battle. I think something like that would be incredibly thematic for Neferata, as it does make a lot of sense lore-wise. In terms of new units for Neferata, well, here we would see some basic entries. There's not really too much that's actually needed. The Spirit Host, for example, which would be an ethereal unit, skirmishing, fast moving, but generally a ghostly tar pit. The Coven Throne can be added in as both a unit and a mount option, focused around buffs and debuffs, but also being a decent chariot to put into your front line. A unit of Special Graveguard with halberds would be a perfect addition here, as the vampires could do with a bit more of anti-large units. And finally, filling out the remaining lords and hero slots, for example allowing for vampire lords to have access to other laws of magic. And in terms of a possible special mechanic for Neferata, I've already covered this in a previous video, but I will go over it in brief and it will also be linked in the description below. This would be taking heavy inspiration from Cao Cao from Total War 3 Kingdoms, as his new mechanic focuses extremely on manipulating other factions, giving them a variety of different debuffs, making them join proxy wars, and allowing you to manipulate the campaign map as a sort of puppet master. Like I said, the video to that will be linked in the description below so you can see that mechanic at work. But with that, let's move on to the Beastmen side of things. The side of the DLC which, in all fairness, requires the most work. We've already discussed the possible plot when playing a potential Beastmen vs Vampire Count DLC. However, of course, when playing as Taurox, you wouldn't know that Khalida is controlling you. Instead, as far as you're aware, you want to hunt down Neferata for your own gain. You want to destroy her as she is pretty, and Beastmen don't like pretty things. As Taurox, you would then be hunting her down as she tries to evade you, and eventually you'll be able to catch up to her as you have her cornered in the city of Lemire. I think that fits the Brass Bull very well as a potential storyline. So now let's look at potential units, and I'm pretty sure many of you know exactly what I'm going to say. First, of course, we have the Jabberslife, a massive, flying, and disgusting monster which any who lay eyes upon it are instantly terrified. Next, of course, we have the Gorgon, which honestly by now I think needs no explanation, as there are probably hundreds of posts in the forums for Total War Warhammer just requesting this unit alone. We'd finally get a Bray Shaman Lord variant introduced with all its possible winds of magic. And finally, of course, the Doom Ball, a generic Minotaur Lord choice, which of course fits rather well in a DLC pack focused around Taurox. While this doesn't seem like a lot of units, you have to take into account that these DLC packs generally don't introduce too many, especially of course if this is a Beastmen themed DLC, we're supposed to be expecting a rather large and extensive rework, where hopefully the Beastmen will actually become enjoyable in Total War Warhammer. We'll be covering a possible Beastmen rework in a future video. Now, in regards to Taurox and any possible mechanics, I imagine some sort of rage meter, where the more damage you do and the more constantly you're doing damage to your enemies, and the more constant damage you're doing on the campaign map by sacking, razing, or anything in general, you would be able to gain more and more buffs, allowing for the Chaos Gods to bless Taurox more and more and more. It's all based around you keeping active and doing as much damage as possible. Before we move on to the next part of this video, generally DLCs have been introducing more and more Forge World units. Where it could very much be possible, we'll also see this happen for the Vampire Counts and for the Beastmen. Maybe the Incarnate Elemental of Beasts for the Beastmen, and the Incarnate Elemental of Death for the Vampire Counts. Both of them seem quite thematic, and it would be nice to see them added in. Now, of course, before we do end this video, there are a few things more to talk about. We do know that there are 3 possible FLC slots on SteamDB right now, which could mean a number of things. Of course, 1, we're expecting an FLC Lord, but I don't think that it would be a Beastmen or a Vampire Count, seeing as we are potentially going to get a Beastmen rework if this is of course a Beastmen DLC. Then why not make things a tad more interesting? With the Beastmen being reworked, why not also introduce Boris Todbringer as an FLC Lord only available if you own the Beastmen DLC, both Warhammer 1 and 2, and of course the DLC which I am talking about right now if this ends up being the actual thing. This would work exactly the same way as Dryker did for the Twisted and the Twilight, and it works rather well, as Boris is a much requested character, and any possible units that could be attached to him, well, those would be reskins. The Middenheim list from 6th edition was all pretty much reskins and kit bashes. That of course leaves us with 2 other slots, which, well, I'm expecting the War Gore for the Beastmen, as that is a very much requested generic hero character. It's basically the Beast Lord, but just as a hero, but it would act in a very similar way, and it would be able to climb ladders. And last could be some sort of mount option, whether for the Beastmen or for the Vampire Counts. It very much depends here. I think something like this would work really well, as it is the trifecta of the most requested stuff. Of course, there are other races such as the dwarfs that do need help, but I do think that Vampire Counts vs Beastmen would work rather well. This is my first proper attempt with some sort of video in this style, but I think the message comes across okay. What would you think if the beauty and the brass ended up being a real thing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.